And with that, I'm handing over to Brian to start when you're ready. Brian, over to you.
Thank you very much, Cyril. Oh, apologies, I'm going to have to rewind this. Colleagues, welcome to the Global Coalition to Address Synthetic Drug Threats, Subworking Group 3.3, April 24th session. This is the West Group, and I'm Brian Morales. I have a few announcements to get us started today. We're going to review the meeting schedule, the website, then initiatives, and then we're going to finalize the recommendations for today. I want to start off by thanking you we value your partnership and participation over these many months of meetings. The synthetic drug situation, concerningly, is just getting worse every day. We see the emergence of new synthetic drugs and their rapid spread. And we've seen now an example of a country issue a national emergency, and that was Sierra Leone about a week and a half ago on a synthetic drug called Kush. We at the same time are redoubling efforts, and there's a lot of enthusiasm and momentum to work together on the issue of synthetic drugs. The topic was prominent at the CND this year. In many national statements, we heard about synthetic drugs. We also heard many positive statements about the Global Coalition, which was very encouraging and motivating. And we had two Global Coalition meetings, one that was a general informational session and another one that was focused on donor coordination. And then we're looking at, we had several side events. Some were by governments, others by international organizations. And then we also had some by civil society organizations as well. One in particular, the Global Initiative on Transnational Organized Crime, had a map that came to my attention. This is, over the past 2 years, the illicit synthetic drug market. And the countries in red is where we've seen an increase in the severity of the market. The countries in orange, where we see that the market has remained unchanged. And in green, where we've seen a decrease in severity. So just by this measure, it seems like the situation is getting worse. And it is a call to action to really continue our efforts and work a lot more intensively on this issue. So now we enter the meeting schedule in our first year of the coalition of action planning and implementation. We begin this month and we'll continue through July. And what can we expect in this phase? Well, first, we'd like to invite you all to share your national experiences. If you are interested in presenting on any topic related to the sub-working groups, please follow the link in the chat that I've pasted, which you also see on your screen there. And let us know what your topic is, and then we will work as best as possible to accommodate you on the schedule. In the worst case, where there isn't enough space, we will ask you for a recording and post it on the website. Second, we will look to continue our discussions of global initiatives and now the operationalization or the first stages of them. We can hear reports on how they are progressing. We are also looking at the engagement of other sectors, civil society and private sector, as two sectors that we're interested in engaging. I'm not sure that we'll have enough time for workshops or training opportunities for coalition participants during these meetings, but we would like to highlight that UNODC has a wonderful training for policymakers on addressing drugs, and we'd like to see if we can do something outside of the coalition meeting time to make that training available for members. It's the basics of the drug control system and the conventions, the pharmacology and physiology of substances and how they affect the body, and evidence-based sort of work in policymaking, how to develop policy based on evidence-based approaches. We also have here now in this phase, and today we're finalizing the recommendations. I had 60, which is what we had when we began last week. Now we have quite a number, I'd say more than 60, but we are finalizing them today, and I will be reading through them, and then we'll be discussing them in today's session. As we finalize the recommendations today, we will then be looking at the next phase, which are actions, concrete measures that you can adopt in your day-to-day work, where we can work collectively to address synthetic drug threats. So we're going to be asking you individually to share with us what actions you're taking in your work to address synthetic drugs. And what is an action? How can you contribute to this? Well, the first way you can contribute is by looking at the 115 initiatives that we've posted on our website. These are initiatives of the international organizations. And if you can identify those and contact the international organization points of contact in those website items, then they will get back to you and we will be documenting that as a contribution. Second, you might consider providing financial or in-kind assistance either to an international organization or bilaterally to another country to work together to advance a synthetic issue. Third, at your national level, you may adopt a new practice, a policy, a regulation, or law. And that is outside of what we are doing sort of multilaterally or as a network of countries. And so if you are making advances in these areas, we'd love for you to share it with us so we can also document that as an achievement of the coalition synthetic drug work. You might also consider engagement and collaboration with the private sector. And you might host a regional or global meeting of the coalition on a thematic area of interest. And so that is, if you're interested in doing this, we encourage you to reach out to us at syntheticscoalition@state.gov. I will display the email address in a minute, and let us know that you're interested in organizing, and then we can see if we can work together in making that come to fruition. So this month, we began looking for those actions, and we'll be reaching out to you in a number of ways, and you can reach out as I'm going to show you on the website to indicate your interest. We will also begin the activities of the international organizations between these months of April to August. And in July, we will be completing a year one report. If you all remember, the ministerial meeting that launched the coalition was in early July of last year. So we'll have a year one report that we finalize the drafting in July, print in August and publish, and then it'll be disseminated in September in time for the UN General Assembly in New York. And then beginning in October, we enter our second year full implementation phase, where each of the international organizations front and center carry forward their respective global initiatives, and we will be looking for outcomes, concrete, measurable results of the coalition's work. Great, so this is where you find the initiatives tab. It's in the very center. When you click on initiatives, it takes you to this very long list, and you can search by sub-working group and click on 3.3, or you could scroll all the way to the bottom. And as you see those, you can then click on one of them. You'll get the title, you get the description in the background, the activities, the outcomes, and at the very end, the flags of all the countries that are currently registered to participate. If you see your country there, but you are not participating, you could still write to the organizations involved and say, I'm interested in joining. Here's my contact information. If your country is not there, then we encourage you even more to connect and contribute and contact those international organization points of contact and register your interest. I will emphasize that in some cases, there's no restriction on the number of countries, and the international organization partners can work with whatever the collection of interested parties are. In other cases, it will require additional resources, and in-depth national work may be necessary with the international organization and the participating country. In those cases, INL, my team, will work with other international donors to see how we can support the international organizations in carrying out this work. But we suspect that the demand may be greater than the supply or the resources available. So we make sure that we say the caveat that just an expression of interest is not an affirmative agreement that we will have the resources to be able to provide or support all of the demand that will be coming. Okay, I want to share now that there is a new website feature, which is a coalition discussion board. Emails were sent to all those who had registered by February to join the discussion boards. If you have not received an email, I'd encourage you all to email us at syntheticscoalition@state.gov, or if your link expired or you misplaced the email, please reach out to us and we will send you a new email to register on the website. And how will that work? At the upper right-hand corner, you can see that there is a login screen or a login link. When you click on that link, once you register your account, you will now have a username and a password. And once you are able to log in there, you'll see that the upper right hand will change to your profile account and also a community link. When you click on the community link, it'll take you to your profile where you see all of the sub-working groups that you have registered for, and you can add more if you'd like. And when you click on one, I'm going to click on 2.2, for example. Now you see a news feed, very much like LinkedIn or Facebook or other social media accounts. You can say something, you could add images, reports, documents, news articles, you can add hyperlinks, and then you can post. And once you post, then others can comment. For example, I posted this article on the public health emergency that the president of Sierra Leone declared on Kush. And then we had our friend Donald Conte from Sierra Leone that responded. And so we can have a dialogue, we can have ask questions, others can come in. And so this is, I think, a good way for us to remain in contact outside of our monthly meetings. We've been asked, how do we have more engagement with coalition participants? This is the way. This is a very good mechanism to share, to dialogue, to interact with one another. Now I'd like to move on to the recommendations for today. I'd like to say, as the first item on the agenda, we're going to finalize the recommendations and post them on our website. We are adding this language to the top of the recommendation document and the website as well. And I'm going to read this for a translation. The recommendations herein are non-binding and for future government consideration where appropriate. They reflect the views of technical experts participating in the global coalition and do not reflect a consensus of governments or a single national position. Many of us participate in multilateral forums. We negotiate resolutions for our official national position. This is not an official national document. We are government experts that have technically provided what we feel are recommendations. Governments at the national level are free to adopt one or more or none of these recommendations, and they can adopt recommendations outside of these. So they are non-binding in that sense. So let me move now to 3.3 and read to you the recommendations as we currently have them with all of the feedback that we have received. Recommendation 55, strengthen institutional capacity to develop, implement, monitor, and evaluate sustainable drug treatment and recovery initiatives for those in contact with the criminal justice system, and, if applicable, corresponding national legislation and regulations. This includes systems development, justice treatment and community, in support of alternatives to incarceration, along the justice continuum, and consideration of human rights, gender, age, and cultural perspectives. 56. Create and strengthen multi-sectoral coordination among justice, health, and social service providers, and establish enhanced responses such as case care management strategies and programs to support the social reintegration of people with justice involvement. The goal of these efforts is ensuring accountability, reducing drug use, promoting recovery, saving public funds, reducing recidivism, and enhancing community safety and individual health and well-being. 57. Conduct drug law, drug-related crime reduction, and policy analysis to identify tangible opportunities for drug treatment and recovery services, including alternatives to incarceration programs to be implemented throughout the justice continuum in accordance with national legislation and regulations. 58. The presumptive location for ATI-related substance use treatment is in the community to provide the most effective outcomes for nonviolent persons in the justice, apologies for the typo, system. For those who are ineligible for treatment dispositions in the community, substance use treatment should also be available in short and long-term custody settings with an emphasis on providing services within the last year of incarceration, preparing for entry, and linking individuals to treatment and social services in the community. 59. This is a new one. Substance use treatment in support of ATI, regardless of where delivered, should provide evidence-based services for special populations, including adolescents, women, and those who have been victims of violence, ensuring that those in contact with the criminal justice system have the benefit of care equivalent to that dispensed to the general public, including medication-assisted treatment, harm reduction, and other low-threshold services. 60. Promote a national recovery system for those in contact with the criminal justice system with local cross-sectoral cooperation and implementation by local political authorities, local government agencies, including education, health, and social affairs, and by faith-based, culture, sports, public security, and community organizations. Two more. 61. Support evaluation capacity and conduct impact analyses regarding crime reduction, public health outcomes, and cost savings for countries with ATI programs. Facilitate the evaluation of processes, results, and impact of pilot programs and public policies related to alternatives to incarceration, and demonstrate the benefits in reducing recidivism, reducing crime, saving public funding, and other outcomes as compared with incarceration. And the final one is a new one that was added since we sent you the agenda and the meeting invite. 62. Engage with the global ATI community of experts, colleagues, and countries working to develop ATI best practices. So with that, I want to thank you all for your work. I'm going to stop sharing, and I am going to turn it over to our co-chairs to lead today's session. I see Giovanna Calderon on the screen now, so I'll turn it over to her. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, Brian. Muy buenos días para todos y todas. Es un gusto estar acá. Voy a iniciar disculpando a el juez Henderson, quien está en un juicio en Trinidad y Tobago, que son sus labores, ¿verdad? Y se ha alargado y no ha podido participar en la sesión de hoy, pero envía los saludos y las disculpas del caso. Sí me parece que estos temas en los diferentes países, ¿verdad? Nos traen una discusión muy importante porque estamos ya tratando con personas que están dentro del sistema o en contacto con el sistema penal, y esto ya implica aún más allá, que es las legislaciones de cada uno de los países. Pero a lo largo de este tiempo que hemos podido desarrollar, escuchar y discutir, hemos tenido desde inicios de octubre del 2023, cuando empezamos, profundizar sobre los principios fundamentales del tratamiento de personas en trastornos por uso de sustancias que están en el contexto penal, esto dando una base desde la evidencia científica para que nos vayamos de una vez reflexionando sobre qué estamos haciendo, qué podemos hacer mejor y qué podemos también compartir como buenas prácticas. Para noviembre del 2023 ya presentamos temas transversales de alternativas al encarcelamiento, con colaboración de diferentes actores en políticas de drogas, sectores claves de justicia, salud. Anunciamos el Consorcio Internacional sobre Alternativas al Encarcelamiento y discutimos cómo disminuir el estigma y la discriminación y crear ciudades más inclusivas y seguras. En diciembre del 23 exploramos desde las diferentes etapas del contacto de la persona con el sistema penal, iniciando desde antes del arresto con programas de desvío, también con las alternativas una vez que ya está iniciado un proceso penal, con modelos de sanciones administrativas, también con la libertad condicional o las medidas alternativas que se pueden aplicar. Y aquí me parece importante hacer ver, ¿verdad?, que no en todo momento la solución es simplemente el encarcelamiento, porque como lo explicaba en una de las recomendaciones, o lo leía Brian, en comunidad es la mejor forma de recuperar a las personas que están en consumo de drogas y que llegan al sistema penal producto de esta situación de salud. En enero del 2024 nos centramos en el modelo de tribunal de tratamiento de drogas, en las oportunidades de tratamiento en el entorno penitenciario y presentamos un enfoque integrado que aborda tanto el trastorno por uso de sustancias como la salud mental asociada en el entorno penitenciario. Finalmente, en febrero del 24, abordamos la justicia restaurativa con el enfoque para mujeres, programas de justicia terapéutica para adolescentes, la integración social de personas involucradas en justicia mediante el modelo de gestión de caso y atención integral. Contamos con expertos de Bélgica, Chile, Canadá, Costa Rica, Costa de Marfil, Estados Unidos, Kenia, México, Perú, Portugal, Sudáfrica, España, Trinidad y Tobago, Ucrania, Uruguay, junto con colegas de las organizaciones internacionales como CICAD, UNODC e ICATI, que presentaron en las diferentes sesiones en que hemos compartido y reflexionado sobre estos temas. Entonces, con este refrescamiento de lo que hemos hecho a lo largo de estos meses, deseamos abrir la discusión y poder escucharles a ustedes también sobre qué piensan y qué consideran de las recomendaciones que hemos tenido en este subgrupo de trabajo, cómo observan ustedes el poder desarrollar acciones en estas recomendaciones o bien si estamos dejando alguna por fuera o si debemos hacer alguna modificación. Abrimos el espacio de discusión y les solicitamos que si tienen intervenciones podamos levantar la mano o abrir los micrófonos si no tienen cómo levantar la mano, o bien también en el chat. Mientras nos animamos a entrar en esta discusión y levantar manos, yo sí quiero hacer ver, ¿verdad?, que estamos dentro de un proceso en donde ya cuando llegamos al punto de las personas involucradas en el sistema judicial o el sistema penal, es porque hemos tenido, ¿verdad?, y hemos avanzado en las primeras fases de prevención y llegamos a este punto donde me parece que la coalición y con las recomendaciones que se están estableciendo está apostando por una prevención terciaria y que también tenemos que hacer una diferenciación entre lo que son las personas que ya están involucradas y que están en un momento en donde tal vez esta alternatividad a la prisión no es consecuente con sus acciones y que eso también como países tenemos que tener claridad, pero que también nos encontramos con aquel otro tipo de población en condiciones de altas vulnerabilidades que los llevan, producto de ese consumo, a caer en alguna situación delictiva que tal vez no tiene un impacto o un daño tan alto y que nos permite trabajar con ellas desde el campo de salud para que puedan dejar de consumir y a la vez también puedan dejar de delinquir y evitar ese fenómeno de la puerta giratoria. Entonces, veo por acá, perdón, es que empecé a pasar las pantallas y no había visto las manos levantadas y ya estaba asustándome de que no había participación. Pero veo que tenemos a don Mariano con la mano levantada, entonces, adelante, don Mariano.
Gracias, Joana, muchas gracias. Tengo la impresión que por lo menos en la zona de América Latina, dentro de las recomendaciones, creo que deberíamos dejar explícito que no hay nada más lejos, al hablar de alternativa al encarcelamiento, no hay nada más lejos que de la impunidad. Creo que debemos explicar que esto no tiene ni una relación con la impunidad. Lo estoy diciendo porque creo que hay que dejarlo explícito, porque a veces se confunde, porque en nuestra región la impartición de justicia es un problema. Y el tema de la sensación ciudadana de la impunidad es muy grande. Por lo tanto, muchas veces la gente normal, común y corriente de calle, y muchas veces los políticos que toman decisiones en base a esa expresión, es contra la impunidad, todos a la cárcel. Y aparecen estas olas de encarcelar a todo el mundo, hasta por delitos no violentos, y además sin rehabilitación dentro de las cárceles, que me parece muy bien que haya quedado muy explícito que también las personas que están encarceladas tienen que tener un proceso de rehabilitación e integración social. Y decir que la alternativa al encarcelamiento es más efectiva que la cárcel para los delitos no violentos es esencial, con un sistema de recuperación que lo apoye seriamente, que eso puede motivar mucho a los tomadores de decisiones, pero hay que explicitar más que esto no tiene, que esto está muy lejos de la impunidad, está muy cerca de la efectividad y también está muy lejos de seguir dañando a las personas para empeorar su conducta. Entonces, creo que nos está faltando a lo mejor explicitar la no impunidad. Creo que eso, por lo menos en la región de las Américas, se necesita fuertemente porque podría malentenderse en algunas opiniones que alternativa al encarcelamiento se acerque a impunidad a la gente que no lo entienda bien. Gracias.
Muchas gracias a Mariano. Creo que es una acotación importante porque el momento histórico que vive la región de Latinoamérica es de mucho punitivismo penal y podríamos causar alguna falsa impresión de que estas alternativas vienen a evitar esa responsabilidad y por el contrario, es trabajar desde la evidencia para que las personas asuman su responsabilidad, pero podamos cambiar la situación de consumo en ellas. Voy a darle la palabra a Karimu Byron, que según lo que iba observando, levantó la mano de segundo. Adelante.
Hi, good morning, and thank you so much for the floor. Karimu Byron from the National Drug Council in St. Kitts and Nevis. As we all move forward in trying to find the appropriate alternative sentencing for persons, especially those with a substance use challenges, I think the recommendations that were presented are adequate and definitely something that we would like to see pushed forward, especially as it relates to recommendation 55, referring to the strengthening of institutional capacity to develop and implement, monitor, and evaluate sustainable drug treatment and recovery, in particular the wellness court, which would have been presented some time back, and as well as 56, which is to create and strengthen multi-sectorial coordination among justice, health, and social service providers, in particular the case care management strategies. I fully support this and would really like to see this recommendation move forward, and it would be beneficial to those participating. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias. Tomamos nota, ¿verdad?, de la anuencia que se tiene y el apoyo a estas dos recomendaciones específicamente. También decirles que en el chat he visto que se están haciendo observaciones a las redacciones y que también se están tomando en cuenta. Invitarles a, si desean hacerlo por ese medio, que también es posible. Le damos la palabra a Ángela Dixon. Adelante.
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to say that Barbados supports the recommendations, specifically section 56, 60, 61, and 62. We are, particularly I'm from probation, so probation is definitely looking towards alternative to incarceration and implementing programs to divert persons. We are focusing on our youth, and we're also focusing on persons who were previously incarcerated. I believe that the case care management system could also assist with us so that the organizations and separate judicial entities are not operating in silos. So just want to say that this is an excellent initiative and Barbados is fully on board.
Thank you very much for that moderation, Giovanna. We will incorporate all of these edits as best as we can. I'm switching with the translation, but thank you for all those that have provided, and we will try to post them in the chat before the meetings end today. And if you have any additional edits, please continue to add those. So I think the other agenda item, if I'm not mistaken, is a presentation or discussion from Ekati. So I will turn it back to you for the next item. Thank you. Or over to you, Michelle.
Perfect. I didn't want to step on anyone's opportunity to speak. Thank you, Brian, and really thanks to everyone who has been part of the working group. We've a lot of together learning about alternative
And my apologies, Michelle, your audio
incarceration.
is breaking up a little bit. Could you speak closer to your device? Hopefully it's going to fix it. Thank you.
Okay, I've been told the audio is breaking up a little bit. I'll assume this is fine unless I'm reminded again. I'll also slow down in case there are some audio issues. I'm also going to prepare to share my screen. Right here.
And we can see a screen. You may want to move your presentation into the slideshow mode, please, and proceed.
Yep. And I now have it in slideshow mode. That just took one moment. So thanks for inviting me to do a bit of a midterm review or a recap today to see where we've been in this journey of learning about justice, alternatives to incarceration, and then also where we can head as we are shifting from capturing recommendations and then looking at initiatives. And so I'm the global lead for the International Consortium for Alternatives to Incarceration. And as you can see by this lead slide, we are a newly created global network supporting the development of treatment, care, and accountability as alternatives to incarceration. There we go. So a couple of reminders again of where we've been and what we've learned. We understand that when we talk about alternatives to incarceration, we're not just talking simply about drug possession. We are acknowledging that there is significant substance use intersecting with the justice system. And the data here show that 60% of individuals who were arrested for any charge are testing positive for a substance. 62% of individuals arrested haven't received any substance use disorder treatment, and 63% of incarcerated individuals have a diagnosable substance use disorder. And so this shows the opportunity we have to provide treatment and care to those involved in our justice system. Let's see. We know that if we don't offer treatment and care, the typical recidivism rates are not good. So within 3 years of release from corrections facilities, we know that 68% of people are rearrested, and actually 52% return back to prison. On the other hand, when we provide treatment and care and accountability in the way that we've been discussing with ATI, there are really good results. Drug use decreases by 40 to 60%. Crime actually decreases by 40 to 60%. And employment, some of the positive factors in community, increase by 40%. And so this is some of the why we talk about alternatives to incarceration. I'll also remind you, and I was pleased to see some commentary about the extent of use of ATI, but I'll remind you that ATI starts as early as the pre-arrest phase of the justice system. So when police and first responders encounter someone in need of treatment and services, if they can safely be maintained in the community, they could be connected directly to those services without any arrest at all. If people are arrested or charges are filed with the court system, we have a range of opportunities to work with them there. Prosecutors can, at the time of initial detention or initial hearings, decide that these cases are most appropriately held or are handled through a combination of treatment and care rather than the traditional justice process. We also know that there are individuals that have some extensive needs that they're bringing to the justice system, and they would benefit from a longer court supervised program, such as what we've heard about, some drug treatment court or wellness courts. And so we have that range within the court process as well. And then finally, even if someone is going to be sentenced and potentially serve time in a corrections facility, we always want to consider the opportunity for community supervision in response to the charges instead of incarceration. And when someone is serving time in jail or prison in a correction setting, that we prepare them well for release back into community. So they receive these services, a treatment and care, while they are still in the correction setting. And we do planning so that they successfully are transitioned into the community with the ongoing treatment and care that they need. So when we talk about ATI, we're really talking about this full range of justice continuum responses. And even with reentry, we are hoping to have this as an alternative to re-entering the justice system, like the recidivism rates that we explored earlier. We need the strong involvement of three main systems. So the justice system needs to recognize that when they have someone in their system, that there is an appropriate response that can include treatment and social services. Depending on the program or the initiative that's appropriate for that individual, there is and can be ongoing justice supervision to readdress treatment programs or other care to make sure that we adjust that response. And then also, where necessary, the justice system can continue to provide accountability for behavior. Of course, the justice system is not a treatment provider, so the treatment providers guide the justice system response with diagnostic assessments, providing appropriate levels of care, and making sure that all of the treatment services are included, not only behavioral health and counseling, but also medical services and pharmacology, including medication-assisted treatment. And then our communities house the social services that we need to address life skills and protective factors, making sure that people are connected with stable housing, education, opportunities in the workforce, parenting, transportation, and some of those basic needs that can foster their recovery. And we had a lot of discussion about case care management. So realizing that anytime we're coordinating services between systems and wrapping around individuals, we need to have that response supported by the continuity that case care management provides. Having a responsible entity or an individual that remains in contact with all of the systems working together and the individual being served so that we can be successful as a system, and also the individual being successfully reintegrated back into community. And the final thing that we know is that not everyone is the same. And we heard some of that discussion today. So I heard a few people talk about court-based or treatment court systems. If we look at the upper left-hand quadrant, those initiatives really are most appropriate for people that show a high risk for recidivism. There are a lot of factors that make it likely that they will come back into the court once the current charge is resolved. And they also have a very high need for treatment. So you can see in that quadrant, we need to employ all of the systems possible. And these programs tend to take about 18 months to 2 years. In the opposite corner, where we have a low risk for recidivism and a low need for treatment, the focus there is more on prevention, either initial prevention or targeted prevention, so use does not continue, and bolstering those protective factors. Then we also realize that we may have people in the upper right-hand corner that are not likely to return to court, but they do have a treatment need. And so again, the court can have some involvement in those cases, but really we want to have a strong community-based treatment response. And then finally, in the lower left-hand corner, there are some people that will continue to come to court that are not demonstrating a treatment need at all, but they do have a high likelihood of re-engaging in the justice system. And so that really is going to look much more like our typical justice cases. When we talk about converting or shifting from these recommendations to action, we're really excited that ICADI is actually part of the global coalition and the action that we're taking to address this space. So we were created as a project of the Colombo Plan's Drug Advisory Program, and we were just launched last year in Vienna at the Commission on Narcotic Drugs as a global coalition priority. Our numbers, I think now we're over 300 people in well over 55 countries, and we really hope to see these numbers grow as a coalition joins us. What does iCaddy do? We are working to build effective ATI systems and networks, and there are 3 pillars that we are focusing on to do that. We want to support a country's exploration and development of ATI. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. We want to make sure that there is a center of resources, information, webinars, dialogues, curriculum, and different materials, either that are identified that have been created by others or materials that are being developed that we see are needed by countries. And then establishing that network. We have really valued the opportunity to participate in the Global Coalition, as have, I'm sure, the people on this call. And we want to make sure that we provide this kind of an ongoing network for those countries that are interested in ATI. I mentioned about country development. We have working with our partners, our international organizations, a Colombo Plan, CCAD, UNODC, and INL. Over the years, we've seen an ATI country development process, and really we are being situated to be a starting point for countries no matter what phase of development they're in. So phase 1, where countries are showing some initial interest and would like to learn some more. Phase 2, where countries now have decided that they would like to take some action, but they realize that these systems need to be prepared. And we are developing a self-assessment tool that countries can use to see where their systems are at in terms of preparedness for ATI. Then phase 3, actually engaging with the key stakeholders in an education and workshop to do some strategic planning and action planning, and having the support needed through technical expertise to be able to launch successful ATI initiatives and collect the data so that we can monitor and see how they're doing. And then in phase 4, the ATI expansion. For countries that have some experience in ATI, but you would like to maybe revisit or refine your ATI initiatives, expand them geographically to other parts of your country, or expand to new areas along that justice continuum, so to make sure you have all the complementary systems and initiatives that meet your need. So in terms of taking action, the easiest thing you can do is to use the QR code or to visit our website at www.icaddy.org. We would love for you to join the iCaddy network. We are actively participating in the chat feature on the Global Coalition website, but when you join our network, you'll be able to have all of our emails to hear about things that are coming up soon. And also, if you have already joined the iCaddy network, I would invite you to join again, because now we have an option for you to indicate that you are a member of the Global Coalition. And as we have special opportunities really geared toward the needs of this group, now we'll have a way to reach out to you and have it go directly to your inbox. So again, there's a QR code. You can take a quick picture of it before I move to the next slide, or go ahead and visit our website. And the membership is at the bottom of the website. I promise that we have other opportunities to engage with us. So remotely, we have a webinar series to continue this education. I think we've realized through the Global Coalition that it's hard to learn in 5 or 7 minute presentations the information that you want. So we have a 4-part ATI Basics webinar series. Each webinar is a full 1 hour and they will be recorded. So this will give you an opportunity to have 4 hours of education with experts in the topics that are listed. And Fundamentals of ATI will be offered on May 7, and the registration for that will be opening soon. We also realize it's important to have conversation. And so following each of these basic webinars, we are having a networking conversation. And so we have 2 different times, Western and Eastern Hemisphere. Again, registration will open soon, and you'll see that on our website. And also, if you sign up to be part of the network, you'll get a special email from us, and then we'll post it to the Global Coalition website as well. And I've already mentioned about the self-assessment tool that we're preparing. If you happen to be attending any of these in-person events, we would love to see you in Vienna on May 13 at the United Nations Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. It's an opportunity to remind our justice partners of the role that substance use disorders and drug use can play in crime prevention and criminal justice initiatives. And then also we'll be at the ICEP ICU DDR conference in Greece. In addition to offering 2 plenary sessions, one on ATI and one on substance use disorder treatment for individuals in the justice system, we are offering country delegation office hours that you can schedule, and we'd be glad to have an hour conversation with your country delegation to talk about ATI initiatives and how we can be of help. And with that, I will finish up my presentation. Of course, I don't do this alone either, so I'm really excited to have such a quality team to work with. Melody Heaps, our Senior Strategic Planning Consultant, Roger Peters, Jack Charlier, our Technical Expert Consultant, and then Marie Gray helps us with our communications and project administration. Most of them are on this call today. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and turn the floor back over to Brian or the co-chairs for discussion.
I'm sorry, Brian, but Giovanna is having a
Gracias.
problem. Oh, yeah, there she is.
Hola.
Go ahead.
¿Sí me escuchan?
Sí, muy bien, gracias.
Gracias. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a Brian, a todos los colegas y las colegas que han participado en esta sesión. Como lo dijo Brian, tomamos nota de todo esto y siempre con la finalidad de que podamos consensuar de la mejor forma las recomendaciones que, si bien es cierto, no son vinculantes para nuestros estados porque estamos en una etapa en donde estamos haciendo reflexión, que sí sirvan para poder impulsar nuevas acciones, fortalecer las que ya tenemos o incluso compartir con otros países aquellas buenas prácticas que nos permitan continuar en este trabajo tan importante en la lucha contra lo que son las drogas sintéticas. Muchísimas gracias a todos y todas y de mi parte eso sería.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you all next month at the May session. Until then, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.